Let me just thank you all for coming and introduce myself. My name is Amanda Hamilton and I'm the former CEO of NALP and the current patron. Today, we are doing a webinar on tips to grow your paralegal practice or business. We have also some experts here. We've got Nigel, who is our marketing guru. We also have Chantal, who is director of PR. And this time round, for this webinar, I'm going to be the question mistress and turn the tables on them for a change. So let's get started because we've got limited time. While we are going ahead with this, if anybody has any comments that they want to make, please use the chat box to do so, or even ask questions. There we are. Nigel's just sent out a message to you mentioning that. All right, so welcome to Tips on Growing Your Paralegal Business. So we're going to kick off with a question aimed at you, Nigel. What do you think are the most important aspects of marketing for paralegal practitioners?
So obviously it's going to vary depending on sort of specialities, but I think marketing is, and the most important pieces are the same for literally every business out there, whether they're paralegals or marketing consultancies or you're selling Mars bars. But it's about, I think the first thing is to prove and show that you understand your customers and what makes them tick and what's important to them and what their needs and issues and problems are. Because if you're not showing that you understand them and their needs, they're really not going to start using your services. I think gone are the days when we can go, this is what we do, and people will start to sort of flock to use our services. I think the second piece then is to identify the right marketing channels. Yeah, there are tens of thousands of options out there. You need to pick the right ones based on your customers and what they do. So whether that be social media, whether that be advertising, whether that is email led, whatever it is, picking the right ones, and that can come from a very easy look. Go and talk to some of your customers, go and talk to some of your clients and say what is it. One, find out how they found you in the first place, and two, find out what they're active on and what they do can be a very good way of identifying the right ones.
So would you say that it's very important from a paralegal practitioner's point of view to find somebody that they believe is amenable and approachable and someone who is interested in their business and can help that individual's business? Because of course that is quite important, isn't it? To get somebody who's a marketing guru like yourself to become interested in that particular business, to want to help that individual paralegal to promote their business and market it in the first place.
Yeah, if you are struggling to promote your business and bring in new clients, getting somebody to have an independent review and look at what you are doing and what you're not doing can be really helpful, and that can be something that's done probably in a couple of hours, and really sort of identify some opportunities for you.
So you've mentioned that there are various marketing channels, and I'm sure that Chantal will agree with this. Is what are the best marketing channels? I know you said that it depends very much on the business of the individual practitioner, but what are the best marketing channels in both of your opinions?
My answer is going to be, it really does vary. It is going from if we think about people in business law, for example, then getting in front of business owners, business directors, it's going to be very different from a paralegal who specializes in being in police stations. Yeah, so I know we've got a member who's in there. Her marketing channels and strategy will very, very different from property law, business law, and all the other things. So it's really difficult to give these are the best ones.
I would say one of the ones that I think is often overlooked, because I mean, obviously I'm a big fan of PR and, you know, marketing and advertising, for that matter, if you're advertising targeted and things like that. But I think one that's often overlooked is actually networking, because the more people you know and the more people who know what you do, the more likely you are to get a referral. So if I think about my business, and okay, I'm not obviously a paralegal practitioner, but the principle is basically the same. Where does my business come from? A huge amount of it is from referral. And where do those referrals come from? They're either previous clients, which may or may not apply to the kind of paralegal work you do, but they are certainly from people who know me, know what I do, and hear somebody talking about it and go, oh, I know someone who's good. And how often do you go around saying to someone, I need an XYZ, do you know anybody? We do that as human beings all the time. So the more people who know about you, and that can be in lots of ways, but through physically networking and meeting people, I think the more likely you are to get those referrals. The downside of it is it's slow. You know, you're meeting one person at a time, if you like, or 20 people at a networking meeting, and not all of them will remember you. But I still think it's an important way forward.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Networking, I always believe in networking.
So the other 2 points I had on this sort of most important aspects. One is consistency. Yeah, you've got to get your marketing out there on a regular basis. So if you're quiet and do some marketing and then you get busy and stop doing your marketing, people will forget about you. So it has to be on a regular, consistent basis. And then the other tip is proving you do a good job. Yeah, getting that evidence out there, whether that's testimonials, whether that's reviews, whether that's case studies, whatever it is. We all buy based on reviews these days. We look for those 4 and 5 star ratings when we're looking for that proof. And that's a really, really important part of your marketing these days. Right.
And talking of that, you know, and we're talking about generating more leads and building your business. I mean, this comes into the next question that I was going to ask, but I think you've kind of more or less answered part of it, which is how to generate more leads. And I think that Chantal's notion of networking is a good one, slow, but very good. Any ideas about generating more business by, you know, generating more leads? Any further?
So see, the classic one is do good work. Yeah, you're only as good as your last job. And as Chantal sort of alluded to earlier, one of the best sources for more work is your current customers or your previous customers. Yeah, and we just had Balpup join a BNI group for the networking piece. Yeah, BNI account for some people, BNI can be really, really good. Yeah, some people not so good, but there is lots of, depending on how structured you are. So Bal, I did 9 years of BNI in the past, so I know what it's like. It can be very good for some people. If you're not an early riser and you're not a structured person, maybe not quite so good. So, but that networking piece is really, really important. Do good work, get your marketing out there on a consistent basis, and sort of, talk to people. Yeah, get the word out there and talk to people. Make sure you can be found.
And the business you do and how well you do it sells itself in a way, doesn't it? Because people, as Chantal said, and as you said, you're more likely to suggest and recommend somebody if you've had a really, really good experience and somebody has been successful on your behalf. You know, done what you wanted.
I would be very remiss if we didn't say that you need to be on the National Paralegal Register. so you get found.
That's a given for all our members. Just to reiterate, if you're not already on the National Paralegal Register, please go ahead and contact us to join in.
I would like to also just say, actually, from a PR perspective, that is also really important, because at NALP as an organisation, we're doing lots of PR to promote the paralegal profession. And I know we're going to talk about PR as specifically for members and, you know, and for your own practice and so on. But just talking generally, if there's PR out there, you can benefit from that, but only if you are visible as well. Now, that doesn't mean you have to shed loads of your own PR too, because clearly that's not always feasible, possible, you know, whatever. But if you're not on the register, then if you think about how do people find a new paralegal, how do they do it? They probably Google. So they'll ask around. If they don't get any takers from that, they'll Google. And they'll come across NALP, because all of the PR and the social media work we're doing and the SEO and all those kind of things. And if you're not on the register, that's it. Opportunity lost. So I can't emphasize enough that with that marketing, you know, you have to then be findable, and the register is a place for you to be findable. So yeah, definitely don't miss out on that one.
Just to reiterate that, the register is great to have you on there, not only if you're a paralegal practitioner, but if you're looking for contract work or if you're looking for employed work, it's a good place for prospective employers or contractors to find you. So it's a must, and I think that goes without saying. So what about social media? Chantal, you know, is social media important generally?
Okay, so that's one of those ones where obviously you'll always come across people who've said, oh, I built my whole business on social media, and equally you'll come across people who say, oh, I post on social media and nothing happens. And the truth is somewhere in the middle in reality. Yes, of course, for some people it's magic and, you know, whatever, but those people are few and far between. In general, I would say social media is not silver bullet for everything. It really isn't. And if you really don't enjoy that kind of thing, then to be honest, I would probably say don't bother. Is the truth, because if you really loathe doing it and it just becomes one of those, oh god, I got to do more of this, then the reality is you won't do it, and you won't do it properly. And it's only when you really put a lot of effort into it and really think about being clever on your social media and having really good, engaging and interesting content, that's when it really works. And if that's not what you want to do, honestly, don't give yourself the stress. Focus on the marketing activities that you do really enjoy, because they're the ones you will A, do, and B, the ones you will do best. And then look at the things that you need to outsource. And social media might be one of those, but I have to say, for me, it wouldn't be the highest on my list. I think it's good to be there. I think, you know, people kind of expect you to be there in a way, and that's a reason for doing it. But will it drive you a huge amount of business? I don't think so, in most cases.
So we're talking about, it's good to have a presence, but don't rely on it too much to promote and market your business, unless there's something fundamentally unique about something you're doing on social media.
Or you just love doing it. I mean, if you love the idea of making little mini reels all the time and posting them, brilliant. Honestly, do it. Definitely do it. But if that kind of whole idea just makes you go, oh, please, can I just, you know, can I go kind of thing, don't, because you're not going to do it right and it's not going to work for you.
Agreed. So you've got to love what you're doing. That's a given. So what about then PR and how PR can promote your business? So we've got marketing, and there are certain things that you can do to market your business. But what about PR? Can you just give everybody a sort of hoedown of what, you know, PR means, what it is?
Sure. So PR is one form of marketing. So marketing is kind of like the umbrella of, and it includes lots and lots of different things. And PR is one aspect of a much bigger kind of umbrella of marketing, as is social media is one aspect of that. So PR in particular, and PR though is actually quite a different skill set from marketing. So when you go to a marketing agency, for example, often they won't include PR, because although it is part of marketing, it is quite a different set of skills that are included. And you want to really make sure that if you're going to an agency and they are including PR, that they really kind of know what they're doing on the PR side and probably have a separate team, because even the language that you use when you're marketing is different from the language that you use with journalists when you're doing PR. So PR is essentially, very sort of broadly, is getting your business featured in the media, so in third-party publications. So if it were on your own blog or on your own social media, that obviously you control. Whereas if it's on somebody else's blog or it's in somebody else's magazine or newspaper or something, that's something that's controlled by a third party. And that's often an easy way of looking at PR is, can I control it? In which case it's my own. Or have I got to go through a gatekeeper to get my business featured? In which case that would probably count as PR, regardless of whether it's on a website or a blog or a newspaper or a magazine or whatever else it happens to be. So that's the good thing about it, is that obviously if you're just posting on your own blog or posting on your own social media or sending out a newsletter, all of which are good, but what they don't do is attract new people. Generally they kind of speak to the people you've already got and keep them engaged and thinking about you and telling them what you do and so on. Whereas PR, because it's using other people's websites and magazines to get you promoted, you're then attracting new people and reaching new people to know about you and to hear about you. So that's really the difference that PR is. And in order to do that, without going into a whole how to do your own PR saga, but in order to do that, essentially what you're doing is you're giving useful content, not sales content, but useful content to people, because journalists are always looking for good content for their audience. So if you can provide them with useful, interesting content, that's what will get them interested to talk about you.
And I know that I know this for a fact, because obviously I do a lot of article writing and pass them to you, and you manage to get them into publications. And the beauty of that is that once one publication may publicize or include an article I've written in it, that there may be other publications that come and request articles of a similar nature. And therefore your name or your practices, your firm's name will get known. And that's the way it works. And it's been a tremendous eye-opener for me since since I've been working with Chantal, because I've become quite popular, actually. I also realized that I've got skills I didn't otherwise know I had, which is perhaps, writing skills. I don't think I'm a brilliant writer, but I think I can string 500 or 600, 700 words together. And I never knew I had those skills. And it's something I quite like doing. So this is sort of another aspect, and it goes along the same lines that if you like doing it, if you enjoy doing it, why not? And PR is just another, as Chantal said, another aspect of marketing. And let's face it, it's all about getting your name or your business name known. And from my experience, doing PR, writing articles, which are then published in various publications, both online and in hard copy, is the best way. People see it. People get to know your name, and it's brilliant. Okay, have we got any questions at all?
We have, yeah. Kevin's just posted one about what are your thoughts re-outsourcing or employing your marketing?
Well, I can answer that. I mean, personally, I think it doesn't really matter. I like Nigel has been our consultant for a number of years now, a couple of years, and is a consultant, not an employee. I think it works very well. And I feel that the work, the marketing that is provided is top notch. So I don't see any reason why, unless you're going to be like a large organization, is to have an employed marketing individual. But of course, that's up to you. And there are many different ways of taking somebody on board, isn't there? You could take on an apprentice, for example, apprentice marketing person, to help you with that. I think personally, I would just go with a consultant who's got an experience behind them and who's been recommended possibly, which is how I got to know Nigel, and I'm very thankful that I did. So Kevin,
you'll make me blush in a minute.
That's what I like to do, make people blush. So as far as Kevin's question is concerned, I think it's up to you.
I would say for PR, unless you're a very big firm and therefore have an in-house PR capacity, excuse me, I would probably outsource the PR, because the reality is for most small businesses, you're unlikely to have enough PR activity to warrant an employed full-time person. Whereas an outsourced to an agency where there's, you know, a number of people working within that agency, you can look after your business sort of 7 days a week, but without you having to employ them 7 days a week, as it were. I think that's the better way, but that's because PR is very specific, whereas marketing, depending on the capabilities of that person, might involve lots of other things as well. But I have to say, I'm also a big fan of outsourcing. It's like, get an expert to do it. And the great thing about having an outsourced one is you can kind of chop and change what you're doing a bit. You know, if you don't want this, you can stop that. You can increase the budget, decrease the budget, you know, those kinds of things. So I think, yeah, I'm a big fan of outsourcing and stuff like that.
As am I.
What I would say on this, and obviously I'm slightly biased, it really does depend. It's outsourcing your marketing is really in 2 stages. You've got both the strategic piece, the planning piece, and then actually the operational delivery piece on that. Getting some advice around the strategic piece, like you both said, until you're of a certain size to bring that strategic knowledge in-house, it makes absolute sense to outsource that in order to get some advice on whether what you're doing right currently is right and is working, to identify what you could potentially be doing out as well. But then the operational delivery of that marketing depends on effectively time and skills. So do you have the time to do it, and do you have the skills internally? So if you've got, for example, if you've got a really good writer within the business who can write about what you do and how it helps people and all this sort of thing, great, but only if they've got the time. Because if they haven't got the time, they're either not going to do the marketing piece, or they're not going to do some other aspect of their work. So it could well be that you get some strategic advice and then have that person just support you along the way, but you can do a lot of your marketing yourself, and it's that trade-off between effectively time, money, and skills.
That makes sense. Are there any other questions? Hopefully we've answered Kevin's query there.
I think we have. He says, well, I got capacity for another client. So I'm happy to have a chat. I haven't seen any other questions come through. One comment that I did see earlier, somebody put that that they have a high street presence. So they've got their brand is being seen by people on a regular basis, and yep, for the right people, depending on what they do at Maple Wills, then that's fairly obvious what they do, really, isn't it? Think about it. Then it can be very good. So it really does depend on what you do, and obviously you've got that additional cost of a high street store. So but there are lots of different ways that you can market the business. So it's really a case of try it, see if it works. If it works, great, keep doing it and do more of it. If it doesn't, try something else.
So it's a bit like a sort of trial and error kind of, aspect of it. Okay, well, I think, have either of you got any further comments you want to make?
I suppose it would be, my comment would be, just take action, actually, particularly around PR. But I think Nigel will probably agree with that with the marketing as well.
Yep.
But I'll talk specifically about PR. A not great press release is still better than no press release. you're still more likely to get media coverage if you send out an imperfect press release, as long as it's not, you know, got glaringly obvious errors and stuff in it. But, you know, if it's not perfectly written in the way that a PR professional would write it, but it's kind of, you know, accurate and good enough, it's always more likely to get you coverage than you will do if you do nothing at all. So I would always say with any of these things is take action. If you can take consistent action, that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. But let's just say you can't. I would start doing something and find out what works for you. Find out what you enjoy. It's like I said earlier, if you hate the idea of doing social media, well, don't make that your marketing channel. Do newsletters or do PR or do something else, but take action. That would be my final tip, would be just do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Do something and do it on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
So
right.
actually, Kevin has put, how do you find contacts for press releases? Do you need to go through an expert, or is it a matter of making your own contacts?
Okay, so there are, very briefly, you don't need to go through an expert. You can absolutely do the PR yourself, and you can find the contacts yourself if you want to. Of course, having an expert, outsourcing it to an expert, does mean that you're tapping into all of their contacts and their relationships. But if you're doing it yourself, then I'm afraid it's not a wonderful answer, but there are three key ways. One is there are massive databases like Agility, Cision, Viewleo, Gorkana, etc. They charge a fortune, and I would absolutely not recommend any kind of small business unless you're a massive corporate or you're a PR agency that you pay for those. They're around about £5,000 a year. Minimum contracts usually 3 years. Honestly, if you've got £5,000 to spend on a PR campaign, you know, come and talk to me, because don't spend it on contacts. But I'd mention them in case you kind of go, oh, but these big places exist. Obviously we subscribe to them. I actually subscribe to 2 of those databases, but then we're an agency with, you know, a team of 6 people, a big roster of clients. It makes sense for us, but wouldn't make sense for an individual business. Another place you can do is there are alerts. So places like Response Source send out alerts. And when a journalist is looking for a particular thing, they, depending on the sector, if it's legal, it's probably around about £600 a year roughly for that. But I have to say, I don't find it massively useful. There's not that many alerts that come through that are useful, and the ones that do, obviously, lots of other people are applying to them too. So we find that even so, we jump on them instantly. The actual rate of return, the ROI, if you like, is not great on them, but I mention them. Then there are places like PressAt and Press Reader and so on, where you can upload your own press release. You kind of load it into a template, you tick some boxes, and then it will send it out to their contacts. So you don't see the contacts, you don't know who they are, but they will send the press release out to you, to the contacts that they have on their database. That can work quite well, but of course you're never building your own set of contacts. So it means you're paying every time you do that. But for quick and dirty, they work really well. And then the other one is you basically have to do the legwork yourself. So hunt around Google, look for the editor. The editor is the person you're looking for always. So look for the editor of the website or the newspaper or the magazine or whatever, and then build up your own list in, say, an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. Or alternatively, you can come and talk to professionals like ourselves, and we can often help you put together that list as well for you. Obviously, there's a charge for that. But I would say the ways really are the alerts, the doing your own legwork, or the online website senders would be the things to think about if you wanted to do it entirely yourself.
Or go and have a word with Chantal. Thanks for that, both of you. I'm very conscious of the time. It's coming up to, it is indeed 7 o'clock. Can I just mention to everybody that we've got another webinar that we're planning ahead for on the 6th of February. That's a Monday at 6:30, and the topic on that evening will be compliance and regulation. We will send out notification of that in due course via Nigel, our marketing guru. And finally, just wanted to say thank you, Nigel. Thank you, Chantal, for your input there. Please contact us if you've got any queries or questions. We'll try and help you with. And I think that's it, really. And I just want to say thank you for attending. Hope you found it useful, and look forward to seeing you all next time.